7th grade. Happy Friday. Today our notes are going to be on page 482, so go ahead and open up your binders to that page. We are just talking about another strategy of how you can solve these equations with a little bit more efficiency if you're dealing with some complicated problems. So at the top here it says when you solve an equation, sometimes an efficient strategy involves changing the numbers in the equation in a mathematically appropriate way. So I can't just magically change everything, but there are some things that we can do to both sides of the equal sign to make it look a little bit better. So for example, if we were to consider this equation here, it's a little bit jumbled. All the fractions, personally, I don't love. But a little trick for this is you can multiply both sides of your equation by the least common denominator of the fractions to rewrite the fractions as whole numbers. So if we were to look here, our least common denominator, if we look, we have 3, we have 6, we have 3. Well, the smallest number that all three of these have in common would be 6. I can multiply 3 and 3 times 2 and 6 times 1 to get that common denominator of 6. So what we can do is we can multiply both sides by that 6. So they're showing this here. So this, let's highlight it. So this was my original equation on the left side. This was my original equation on the right side. They are multiplying both sides by 6. Rather than writing it under like what we normally do, they're writing it as if it were to distribute it. Okay, so whenever we do this, you have to multiply everything in it. So whenever you're doing this, one thing to note is that you're multiplying each term by that 6. If you look here, what is in the parentheses, and this is the same for all parentheses, this term is tied with that 1/3. So that whole thing is one term. So that's why whenever you look here, all that's changing is my 6 times 1/3 is going to be 2, because this is all one term. So all I need to multiply is that number on the outside, and then this other number because it's also outside that parentheses. And then we also do 6 times 5/3 x, which gets us 10x. Then we can distribute, so we get 4x plus 4x plus 14, bring down our plus 5, equals 10x. Then we can continue to solve. So let's see, that's what's happening down here at number 2. So I'm going to pick up where they ended to continue to solve. So I'm going to take away 4x, and we have 6x on this side. 14 plus 5 would be 19. And then if you were to divide both sides by 6, you would end with 19 over 6 equals x. Okay. And this isn't a full system, so we can just leave it at the value of x because it's not asking us to solve a system. Okay. If this is super confusing to you, you can leave the fractions as they are. This is just another strategy to solve it a little bit more efficiently. So then if we were to look on this next page, they're doing the same thing. So we're finding that our LCD, or least common denominator, between 4, 2, and 4 would be 4. So I'm multiplying both sides of my equal sign. I do 4 times negative 3/4 x, and we get negative 3x. And I do 4 times 1/2 x to get 2x, 4 times 5/4 x to get 5. Then we go on to solve, and we get x equals negative 1. You're going to get the same answer. You're going to get the same answer even if you were to leave the fractions the same. So what Barry says right here is what makes his wrong. Okay? You do not, so the answer to number 3, you don't have to divide by 4 at the end. because you're multiplying by 4 on both sides, it keeps that equation true. Okay. We're just going to we'll look at these next two together as well. So if we were to look at letter A, our least common denominator, if we look at 4 and 2, would be 4. So we're going to multiply both sides by 4. And remember, whenever we do this, you don't have to multiply, or you're not supposed to multiply by what's in the parentheses. Okay, so we're going to be doing 1/4 x times 4. Well, that would be 1. You can write the 1, or you cannot, because it would make make those parentheses dissolve anyway. And then we would have 9 times 4, because that's our next term, and we would get 36 equals, last term, 1/4 x times 4 would get us 2x. Now we have something simpler to solve. So we would have x minus 5, those parentheses would dissolve, plus 36 equals 2x. Negative 5 plus 36 would be 31. Get rid of the x on both sides. And you would get 31 equals x. Okay, go ahead and pause this video. Try and use this strategy on this one, and we'll see if our answers match in the end. All right, I use that LCD of 8 to multiply every term. You can see here what I got whenever I multiplied that out. And then I solved it all the way down, and I got negative 69 over 9. Okay. Once again, this is just a strategy. You do not have to use this if it does not make sense. But if this is something that helps you solve, you may feel free to do it. So what I want you to do now is I want you to go onto Mathia, and I want you to complete the lesson 3 assignment that is assigned. This isn't quite like the ones where if you get one equation wrong, you're going to get a 15%. You do have multiple equations that you're going to be working on building. Try your best. I do plan to take a grade for it, but of course, if we're all struggling and confused, I will show grace with that. But I still need you to try your best. That once you have finished that assignment with any leftover time that you have, you are either spending it working on math work or you are on the Mathia workspaces. If by some crazy chance you have all Mathia workspaces done, you can be working on Delta Math. And then if everything there is done, iReady is going to be your default. If you have any questions, you can email me and I will respond if and when I can. And I look forward to seeing y'all on Monday. Have a great weekend.